Hello, everybody, and welcome to another multi-dimensional soul with myself, Gary from Alternative Interactions, and
Robert Lomax.
thank you very much, Robert. Uh, as always, Robert is very reserved in what he says and how he introduces himself. Please check out his website. He's got some books that are all free, brilliant stuff, lots of information. And just to confirm this before we go any further, Robert does not channel anybody or anything. Robert connects to his own multi-dimensional self in a different dimensional frequency or state that he's able to access. So Robert's always internal from his own source, connecting via source to himself. And we now call this the multi-self, just for ease. So we'll be using the term multi-self rather than channeling because Rob doesn't channel. Is that all right to say that, Robert?
I think it's a great explanation.
Thank you. So today we're talking about karma. Robert and I have been talking before the show, and oh my God, is it one great big rabbit hole? It really is. We're going to try and do this within a reasonable amount of time. There's going to be a lot of information coming in. So I actually looked at karma and where it comes from, the origins. And I have to say, I was quite surprised. I think you were as well, weren't you, Robert, when I.
Unfounded. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's start from the beginning and then we can go onwards. The origins in ancient India as a central I can't say this word, Robert.
Philosophy.
Thank you. And religious concept within Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism, which is virtually the same as Hinduism and Buddhism. It's all the same stuff. It literally translates to act or action. It means act or action. But over millennia, over time, it's evolved from the simple act of. Now, this is the interesting one, the act or action. Okay. The act or action is the act of ritual sacrifice. So I'll say that again. Karma used to mean or means ritual sacrifice, the action or act of the sacrifice. It then changed into a universal law of cause and effect.
Interjecting at this point, the act of sacrifice is allowing somebody to sacrifice you, which is giving your power away to somebody else. So, what we're saying in this instance is that karma is giving away your power, even though subsequently the intellectual understanding of karma would be very different, but it's attached to giving away your power.
Yeah, well said, Robert. Well said. And we're going to get more into this. Now, for those that follow my channel and understand and have watched my stuff on Moses, Ezekiel, and Akhenaten, you'll know that the 1400 BC, their 1400 BC period is very, very interesting, key to many, many things. It's very interesting that the earliest mention of karma is from 1500 BC. 100 years either side of this 1400 period is a bullseye as far as I'm concerned, because they don't really know. They can't really date stuff that accurately. But in 1500 BC, karma is, or karmun as it was known then, it wasn't called karma, it's called karmun. Karmun means sacrifice, was mentioned. It was only 800 years or so later that they started to look at the ethical dimensions and the ethical actions of karma or karman, and it then grew into a philosophical doctrine, which is amazing. So for 800 years, karma was totally and utterly known by everybody as sacrifice. And around that period, we know the kind of people that they were sacrificing, and they weren't necessarily big people. And we're going to leave it at that. But let's be very clear what these sacrifices were and are. And this is your karma, by the way, everyone. This is your karma. So, karma is the universal principle of cause and effect. Every action generates an energetic echo or consequence, whether immediately or over time. That's what we're told. That's what karma's turned into. It's quite a leap, really, isn't it, from sacrificing something or someone to some kind of
Universal
energy.
law.
Yeah, universal law. Now, one of the things that they say on karma is good deeds equals good outcomes, and bad deeds equals bad outcomes. What would you call that, Robert?
Well, there we are. We're straight into judgment, aren't you? So, what is good or bad? How good is good and how bad is bad? If some bad is acceptable, or so it's, as the A's would say, it's just energy return. However, we treat the energy that we have returned to us. And what they're really quite keen on pushing, I would say really, really hard, and I make this point very, very strongly, is it's not just energy return and how we deal with that energy turn and return and how it affects our uh, lives and our timelines, but they want to change our focus away from that to say, remember your creators. You are creating the energy in every moment. Okay, yes, there is return energy, and we can talk about return energy, but see it from the prospects, from the, oh, let me turn that off. See it from the perspective that you are a creator first.
Yeah. So karma is said to be linked into thought, words, and underlying intentions. So we've gone from sacrifice and sacrificial to just thinking. That's a big leap for me. And there's clearly some kind of shenanigans going on with this because I can have any thought I want. And so if I have a thought about something, does that mean karmically it's going to come back? So I've been thinking about catching a really big fish recently. And when I go fishing, I don't seem to catch any big fish recently. So surely my karmic thoughts would rebound and I would therefore catch something big because good deeds and good outcomes, they've said this, it's part of their doctrine, but it doesn't happen. So surely if I'm having bad thoughts but don't act upon it, then there can be no karmic outcome. Would that be a case? I mean, I am acting on the fishing occasionally, but I can sit there and think about catching or daydream about catching fish all day long. And if I don't do it and I don't go out, there's no chance of me catching a fish. If I have a thought about something that's bad or an ill intention towards somebody or something, if I don't do that, I've not created anything. And so, how can the karmic influence be so?
It can't. You've answered. Your question is a statement.
Yeah,
There has to be an action, there has to be an outcome, there has to be a creation of energy. If the energy is your thoughts, are these thoughts going to permeate? Well, other than an intent of thought. So, an intent of thought could be creation on the etheric realms, where we would create a thought, but we would have to have a thought that we want to actually harm someone or see them coming to some harm, or see them coming to some form of betterment. So internal thoughts without action, as you say, they don't go anywhere. It's a wheel that runs, that's not engaged.
So we're very clear about this, everyone. Your thoughts do not have any karmic effect on you or anyone else. This is a control mechanism. This is a judgment, and this is another layer of the onion on the mind to control your mind, to get us to be self-policing. Remember, many of the constructs in this realm are being placed upon us so that we police ourselves, that we control ourselves to make certain things easier for the controllers to deal with. So, an example of this would be, and we're going to go into some questions next. We have in Roman times, for example, the Roman emperor putting his thumb down at the end of a gladiatorial conflict for the gladiator to finish the job. We'll put it that way on YouTube so we all understand what finish the job means. The gladiator finishes the job. The person who put the thumb down, and I've just done it, is there any karmic repercussions for me putting my thumb down? None. It's an action. But all I've done is done that. I haven't done anything physically as such to anybody else. But we can go a step further where when the action was done physically by the gladiator, was there any karmic return for him? No, there wasn't. The reason being is we're here to grow, develop, and have synergistic, synergy relationships within each other. The gladiator could not have been in the position or placed within the position without the hierarchy and the system of control via the emperor doing the thumb. Everything is connected, everything is one. Does that make sense? Is there a better way of you perhaps explaining this, Robert, please?
Um, we've got a co-created event in that instance. We've also got the ethos at the time. We've also got what's acceptable at that time in terms of the mentality of the individual. And that's something that, of that particular time in Rome, I might well talk about the ethos at the time as well, on an experience I had. So it's acceptable, it's normal. But we've got an energy return. How that energy returns to the co-conspirators or the co-creators is another matter entirely. Whether it returns in that lifetime or another lifetime, when it can be dealt with, when it's perceived, and how it's dealt with, it is another matter. And that's where it becomes not necessarily more complicated, but the soul in its intrinsic nature is able to see the best ways of transmuting and changing these energies over a period of time or a period of lifetimes as to what would be appropriate. But when we come down to those kind of judgments, many of us have had the experience of killing someone or being killed. Our soul has experienced quite negative things. In fact, a short while ago, we were talking about freedoms and restrictions, and that a restriction is the antithesis of grow, which is the universal construct of evolving, whereas actually restriction is part of an experience. If restriction didn't exist, then there would be a restriction on grow. The universe would of itself be restricted. So we have these experiences with regressives, with the way in which we're in a jail that's been co-created and we have agreed to as a restriction. And I think we have to look at it. Okay, we can be angry about it, but we can step beyond that to see our involvement. Seeing our involvement actually allows us to step away from it, to take responsibility without knocking or hurting ourselves. So once we no longer become the victim, when we're no longer punished by karma in that instance, in these events, we're more able to actually step aside from the energy because we understand how the energy was created. Now, that's a whole different way of looking at karma. When we talk about stepping aside from return energy, that opens up a lot of other questions about responsibility, wanting to step aside from return energy. Well, that's completely different. Then you'll have the experience of what that creates. But it really pulls apart the whole idea of what karma is, who is responsible for the return energy, and how that energy can be dealt with. Probably gone off on a little bit of a tangent,
No,
but
that was absolutely brilliant. So this is a really interesting concept. Karma has actually become a control mechanism. Karma has become something that no longer serves us. We have gone too far down the karmic route of understanding, and it's become a pseudo-science. It's become a religion, an externalization of ourselves, limiting ourselves. But that is in itself an experience. And once we understand and see karma for what it truly is, we can then choose via our growth and our experience to let it go and move on. So Robert's obviously had lots more experience in dealing with people, and he's obviously not going to talk about any one specific case. But we all have echoes or energies coming back that affect us in this lifetime that we have to work through. Sometimes we will say we have a lesson to learn. There's a cosmic or karmic energy, and it's the lesson we still have to learn. And it could be in an entanglement with somebody or something that keeps happening. That's not karmic. That's our soul trying to learn and develop and break through a glass ceiling to move forward. It's got nothing to do with karma at all. It's part of our experience and growth. We're here to experience and grow as a multi-dimensional soul, a fractal of source, and karma is the stabilizers on the bike. And at some point you have to throw the stabilizers off and realize that you've got to fall off the bike to learn to ride the bike properly. And we're going to be going into what these stabilizers are with questions that I think are going to be very interesting moving forward and very thought-provoking, and could even lead into further shows in the future. Before we go into the Q&A part, where you'll be multi-selfing, using your multi-self to answer these questions as
some of that has already
intended.
happened, by the way.
Yeah,
So
I'm sure it has. It's very fluid. It's very fluid. Have you got anything else to add to what we've been talking about as an introduction before we go into the questions?
now I think other than being gentle on yourself, because whatever we do in life, are we harsh? If we are harsh with ourselves, we're more likely to move forward. Again, it's another duality construct. But in the same way, we see returned energy, or we see karma in the same way. And when we see something perhaps as an energy return, try not to use the word karma, we've got to be a bit more observational and a bit more gentle on ourselves where it affects our emotional body, where we feel guilty, where we feel ashamed, where we want to push some of these feelings at bay because they make us feel very, very uncomfortable, is just welcome them in because they're our feelings and they're nothing to be frightened of. So, not being judgmental, welcoming these energies because we're welcoming the energy back that we created. I know we're going to talk in a little while a difference between our energy created and co-created and other people's energy, different matter. But I think this time being gentle with ourselves.
Love and forgiveness of oneself is important. And this is something we've spoken about before, is when the energy or the feeling comes in, is it actually really yours? Is it your energy from you? Or is it something that's coming back into you to be, I forgive myself, I forgive the energy in love and light, and release it and let it go. And when you let it go, you have then dissipated the return energy very simply. I know that's an oversimplification, but I think it helps understanding that you sit with that energy. You know, we feel the energy of the planets, we feel the energy of the human design within us via the planetary frequencies that come in. We feel all this soup of energy, which is going to lead us on to the first question. And then we have,
Go on to the forgiveness part. We can actually let go of forgiveness as well, because what we're talking about is understanding the process and understanding what the energy does to us and how the energy works. Once we understand, we don't need to forgive. It just is. We understand it. So we don't actually have to work with it. We have to work with some of the energies we've created. I can't say that we just understand everything and it's all la la lovely. Um, but the understanding does release a lot that we can just step back from that once we've understood it.
very well said. Now, the first question I'm going to come in on karma is not actually necessarily about karma, but it is. Certainly, this has had multiple debates, and I'm sure there will be more debates from this as well. Okay. Where do thoughts come from to create karma? Where do the thoughts come from? Do we actually have our own thoughts? Are we a transmitter? Or do we have thoughts that come into us that are designed to push us into experiences? And that's a long-winded question, and it's going to be a big answer. But I wonder if you could multi-self that, please, Robert, and give us an answer from and let the audience know, please, who's come in, please, as well, so they can tell.
Okay, thank you. I think again, you've already put part of the answer in there already by saying it in that way. When we look at thoughts, emotions, and feelings, we perhaps need to return to the origins of the universe in some ways. Because with the universal grow, as we call it, and the byproduct being energy, and grow taking place in all parts and different ways and overlapping. So thoughts and emotions. Thoughts are just part of the process of grow or evolution, just an infinite possibility, which becomes a probability. So we are the universe and it exists within us. We are attached to the universe, which we say is information, but we are attached to all possibility at the same time. But we are attached to all of the thoughts within the universe. Now, in this particular life shell, we're restricted to some of those thoughts that we can connect with because of the framework and the prison that we are in, because of the way that our mind is constructed as to the way we are structured to think. And Antipodes has spoken. This is it. Um, I have spoken at length about understanding you because we know the ways that you think. If we know you by the way that you think and the way that you process information, how much more do we need to know about you? There are all sorts of fluffy uh, elements or things that can be added to accentuate that so that the plane could go from one room to several miles across. But if all of those thoughts are thought about in the same way, are they just not a replication of the way in which you process? So we would look at the way that you process information and process thoughts. But returning to what Gary had said, where is the origin of thoughts? He is quite right in what he says, that thoughts are universal. Where is an original thought? You go to sleep. You are in other realms. You're working in higher realms. You're working in etheric, creative realms, which you're able to experience in the following days. So, where did you create the thoughts that came to you in the day? Who created them? You see that you created them, but did you see at the level at which you created them, at a sponsoring level? Whereas within this life, within this earth experience, experience being the word, you are having the experience of what you have already created, of what you have already thought. So in that instance, it's not just the universal thoughts that exist around us that you are connected to, but it's the thoughts and actions and experiences that you have created for yourself on the etheric realm for you to have as an experience in this earth world. But the experience, of course, is that of having an original thought, because you could create a piece of wonderful music, have a new invention, do a wonderful drawing. That is the experience of creating. The fact that you've already created it, I would say, is neither here nor there, but that needs to exist in order for you to have the experience. This is an experiential world. The etheric realms are also experiential, but they are slightly different to this butt end of experience. I would call it that. And the end of the butt. Yes, and I would use that as perhaps in a jokey manner as well. So thoughts, feelings. Is there anything original? Certainly at this human level, which is an experience. Does that disenfranchise us from who we are? Being the experience of them? I think in a way the experience is what we were created for, what you are created for. If one cannot have the experience of what you create, and the same thing then applies to karmic energy or energy return, you create the energy, then you experience the energy that you create as it exists around you. You know, we might say that as the energy returns to you in a lifetime, in an event, which is even co-created, it's just energy return, and it's your experience of energy return, as pointed out earlier, that it doesn't need to be judged as good or bad, because we don't see good or bad. We don't judge things as good or bad. It's just energy, and you decide what that energy does for you. If you like the way that energy forms some kind of destructive energy, if you want to use those terms, and that's what you like, fine. That's your choice. But again, is it a choice at this experiential level? Is it a choice that you are making at an etheric level because it's energy that's being returned to you time and time again? Do you then choose to continue with that same negative energy? Because to break free from that negative energy is such an uphill task. But there you are presented with it time and time again. You believe it's an uphill task. You are told it's an uphill task. An alcoholic is told it's going to be a difficult time to get rid of the alcohol. But it's all about belief, and your belief becomes your experience. So these are the experiences that you are having, neither good nor bad. Sorry,
You,
you came through quite forcefully then.
no, that was brilliant. So again, we're having an experience. We're experiencing the experience. We're connected to the universe, and the experience that we wish to have, we give ourselves, but we have the ability to change that experience by observing the experience, not as good or bad, as just an experience, and we can then control the experience. I hope that kind of makes sense, but we really are in control. We do not have to be run by an external control mechanism of the mind. We are the controllers of our own mind if we choose to be. If we choose to engage in some experience, that's because we chose to.
This came from the question, what is a thought?
Yeah, yeah,
That's where we ended up.
yeah. But it is. But what is the thought? Is it everything has already been? There's an old saying: "There's nothing new under the sun." This is true. There is nothing new under the sun. But as a fractal, we want to experience and grow, develop, enjoy, not enjoy. All of them are experiences that we choose to have. But we can choose how far we wish to engage in the lovely experience or the not so lovely experience. And that's the point. Because the thought is there. We can think about it and we can choose. We can think about. It's very interesting that they said about the aha moments we get come from our sleep when we're in different realms and we're able to subconsciously bring this information back and present it in a way that's unique to us, and it gives us that experience of aha, and what a beautiful experience that is.
Yeah. And of course, this is happening on many dimensions of ourselves at the same time. Wonderful experiences.
Because we are multi-dimensional beings. Our source connection isn't just to source. It branches off to different realms, realities, different beings, different creations, different experiences, all at the same time. And Robert's able to multi-self himself into himself. So Robert can be in two different dimensions at the same time, and those two different dimensions can be inside Robert, and he's able to express that at the same time. There's no channeling going on. This is the point. Robert's unique almost in that respect where he's not channeling, he's talking to himself almost, as we do when we have thoughts. Our thoughts are just ourselves communicating with ourselves to give us the option to make a choice or decision or experience something new. And it just
And
is.
taking that further, what is a thought? Which was the question. When the thought comes into you, whose thought is it and when? Is it from some of your soul source outside? Is it from your multidimensional source, your multidimensional self that's giving you these thoughts? But because you're experiencing having those thoughts, you've got no experience necessarily of your multidimensional self interconnecting with you, but it is. So whose thoughts are they? But then again, if you are your multidimensional self, it is you giving you your thoughts, not somebody outside you. So we come back full
Yeah.
circle.
Yeah. So fundamentally, all thoughts are your thoughts, but not necessarily the human avatar thoughts of this realm.
Brilliantly put. Very well put. Thank you.
So, next question. Karmic debt or karmic merits, how do they affect future self? As in, when you're reborn or the experience, does karma actually have an effect on our future self?
We have to look at that in the context of what you said earlier about karma and how karma is entrained within the human psyche in what it means. It doesn't mean what it means. So, between lives, if we call it that, you would be aware of the experiences and the energy that you created. If you want to change that energy, you can create a life where you have the opportunity of changing that energy. It doesn't necessarily mean that because you have murdered somebody, that you then have to have the experience of being murdered. Most of us have had the experience of killing and being killed. It's a life experience. But it doesn't mean that because we've suffered a murder or we've created that event that we have to then suffer it ourselves. As to how it formulates the next life, that's down to the individual in collaboration with other souls and how those other souls are going to affect that as a co-created experience. Now, some of these co-created experiences energetically are created what we would call by the quantum field or by the quantum computer of the universe. Sounds distant off there, the quantum computer of the universe. No, it's us, our quantum computer. It's kind of like we set an intent or we have an energy that we want to transmute or look at or deal with in conjunction with others. But the quantum computer of ourselves, we allow it to run. We let it work out to create the best possibilities to experience those energies to change or to do something different with them. So saying we decide what we're going to do in the next lifetime, and that same applies for us as other alien entities, if you want to call us that, as other humanoids, we allow that same process. So this is what we would call the how and why, the processing and understanding the how of the process. So what you then experience as a life isn't a punishment. It's what has been allowed by you, by your quantum computer, to process that information, to return the energy to you in some form for you to decide what to do with it. And in some ways, it's not necessarily for you to decide to do what you want to do with it. We could actually take it back to the nuts and bolts and say, you are a creator, you've created the energy, you are now experiencing the energy you created, which is the universe experiencing the energy it's created. So this is what transpires in your lifetimes. So karmic debt, punishments, these things don't exist.
That's very interesting and leads me on to the next question very nicely because I think you've kind of covered it, but want to just put a little bit more meat on the bone if we could on this one. We're creators, we're co-creators. Very interesting, everyone. The there's often, this isn't part of the question, but part of what we're told is we've signed a contract when we come in here, and the contract states what we're going to do. Okay. If you want to look at it in that terms, yes, we've signed a contract, or we've agreed to a contract of energies that we've created in past lives that we want to experience in a co-creator way within the holographic realm that we call Earth. This is something that we do. You can look at it in many different ways, but I think that's exactly what was being explained by Antemedy. Is that correct, isn't it? Yeah. So the question is, as creators, are we actually giving karma a power that it doesn't have, this non-law, this non-anything, this non-entity, because we believe that karma's a really thing? Are we actually giving karma a power that it doesn't deserve, and so creating a karmic loop of control, which is a self-fulfilling prophecy of control mechanism upon ourselves by calling karma karma and accepting it as a control system?
Again, Gary, you're brilliant at asking a question and making a statement. Absolutely, yes. We are giving power to the karma and the idea of what karma is in that instance and what it is supposed to do to us. We talked about how we can step aside from some of that energy or allow that energy loop to dissipate. First of all, by understanding what the energy loop is and why that energy, why we've done that particular energy, or we've created that particular energy. Sometimes we need to be more involved in transmuting the energy. And that's something that doesn't have to be difficult. It can be felt to be difficult. But perhaps we can look at 2 or 3 different types of energy. Energy that was created that was never ours, that we've accepted responsibility for, or that it's affecting us. Some people might call that trauma. It could be good trauma or bad trauma, depending on how you look at it. And the other is an energy that we've created by the deeds that we have done. So I think if you would indulge me a little bit, I'll go through the first one.
Please do.
So in this lifetime, one of the thoughts that I had as a youngster and most of my adult life was, it doesn't matter what I do, it always goes wrong, or it always gets taken away from me. So there's no point in really trying because I don't actually have the power. And it doesn't matter how I protest or what I do, I just feel as though it doesn't go right. I can't have the control. So in this particular instance, I was taken back by Antemede to a past life experience as a foreman in a quarry. This would be somewhere in the Mediterranean. We were quarrying stone, and extraordinary to be taken back to see these wooden profiles. Some of them are square, and we had strings on them so that we did the rough hewing, and then the wooden profiling would go down to make sure they were regular. Extraordinary just to experience, to see how the masonry was being undertaken in this quarry. But it would be run, I would call, by, I would use the word militia. Perhaps that's the wrong word, I don't know, but it's the kind of the way they came across. And we were slaves. I had to beat the other slaves in order to get the best performance from them. I refused to do that, and I was beaten. I would argue with them. I would plead about whatever it was that we were needing more food or or rest or whatever it was. We had no ability to determine our life. And lots of people in the world at the moment are having that experience. Um, so what we did, uh, uh, it's kind of like going back in time, going back to that time with that energy that was generated. I could recognize the individuals who were in charge of us. And what we said to them was, or what Antimedes showed me to teach them, was here is the energy as a perpetrator that you have created. Look at what you have done to all of these people. That energy you created. That energy they accept as their punishment, that they feel that they have no power over themselves. They did not create it. They accepted it as an experience. They no longer wish to have it as an experience. And there were these two leather satchels that he'd created. And we gave these leather satchels back to the perpetrators, to those in charge, and said, here is the energy that you created. They are free from feeling that they have no power over themselves. We also give you the love and understanding of why you did what you did. So we're not leaving you high and dry with this energy as a form of punishment. You created it, but we're giving you the tools and the understanding that it was the ethos at the time, that this is what you were doing as a co-creator. But be responsible for your energy and take that with you. So from that point onwards, I felt completely different. That past life energy that had stuck to my soul, if we call it that I had accepted, no longer belonged to me. And it was given back. So that's one way of transmuting an energy. Another one, if I go into it, is a self-created energy. I'd been feeling ill for a few weeks, dull, depressed. Everything was really quite dark. And I was feeling really, really unhappy. And they said at the time, are you ready now to have a look at this? I didn't want to. It just felt horrible. I don't know what it is. I don't want this. But anyway, they took me in. They took me back again, this was back to Roman times, where I was a slave for my master. I was in a good position. I was a trusted slave and I had a good life. But I was having an affair with his wife. And between his wife and I, we had conspired that I would kill him. And I did. I stabbed him literally in the back. And we did have a life together, this wife and I, or his wife and I. But it was interesting. Nobody dared to question what had gone on. They knew that it was probably likely that I'd killed him. We said that he'd disappeared, but nobody dare ask those questions because of the fear and the ethos that was going on at the time. Now, this energy was absolutely wretched. I felt unforgivable. I felt as though I myself wanted to die. I didn't know what to do. It was the god-awful feeling I've ever felt in my life. Horrible. And I didn't know what to do with it. And over a period, you think that, they were explaining it to me. And it was again about the understanding. And they were saying, well, the ethos at the time was be killed or kill. You choose. It's okay to kill so that you don't become killed. It's okay to take what you want from somebody else. That's perfectly okay. Everybody does it. Might is right. And killing is okay. It took a lot of talking to accept that I was having that as an experience. And I was introduced to my ex-master, and we had an experience or a confrontation where we talked together about the fact that he'd agreed to be a part of that experience. Without his acceptance of being murdered, it couldn't have taken place. See how intricate the soul is to provide such an extraordinary experience that no experiences are off the radar. But of course, we then come back to changing our energy and changing things to rectify them. So there was a lot of energy exchange and a lot of energy work that we did between the two of us. The woman who I took then for my wife, who then, we had a child together in that experience. So that was temptation that I did not resist. So in life, one then could have, in a next life, for example, one can have a temptation that one can resist. So therefore, the energy works itself out. And it might seem as though there are bizarre ways in which those energies work themselves out, but they're part of that same energy. If, I was tempted to have an affair, I was tempted to go with this one, and she was a bit of a temptress, I had to say. She was a lovely woman as a temptress, but one doesn't then have to accept the temptation. One can refuse temptation. And so these energies then work out in life. So, yeah, others' energies, our created energies, what we do with them, how we give love and understanding, and how we accept back the energy that we've created that sometimes we don't want to accept. But learning to accept that with grace and gentleness so that we can see it as an observer. When we're in the thick of it, in the thick of those feelings, you don't feel like an observer. And I wouldn't want anybody else to have to go through that. But there are people who are murdering now who will face those very things. So I've gone on a bit of a tangent, just explaining transmuting energy from others' co-created energy and our own energy. And I suppose actually, when you look at it, even though I created it, it was co-created, wasn't it? Both of those events were co-created.
Yeah.
So perhaps we can step beyond them and see it as a wider, not necessarily plan, a wider weaving of energy to have an experience. So
Yeah, no, we live in a very, very complex mechanism. And if it wasn't a complex mechanism with co-creation and energy, movements the way they are, we would see through the holographic realm very quickly. We need to believe we're inside something that's real, physical, and actually happening to allow us to have the full experience, the full immersive experience of this. We've got to the stage now where we're questioning the immersive experience and we're trying to look through the veil, pull that curtain back and observe it for what it is. And I think we're being allowed to do this because we're right at the end of the game.
yeah,
We're about to get out and go somewhere else, do something else. We're going to bridge across 4D, or we're in 4D fluctuating at the moment, and we're going to bridge across into a 5D consciousness which will make us think and see things completely differently. And so part of what we're discussing and part of what we're experiencing today, because this is an experience, everybody, you know, Stockholm syndrome, cognitive dissonance are all experiences of the mind to allow you to experience or not experience certain things
One
as
of
we
the
move. Go on.
one of the other things that's happening is the speed of the return energy, so that we don't have to wait for lifetimes, we don't have to wait for weeks. We've got the experience in the moment. Okay, we're in this program to have the experience, to, a controlled program, unfortunately. But we have the ability to receive that return energy, to be cognizant of what's happening in that moment as an experiencer and an observer, to change or to create in a different way. So it's instantaneous nearly.
Yeah.
I think everything is speeding up.
Yeah. Very well put. Very well said. And that's because we're at the end of the game. We're about to get out. And so we have to start working through, or not have to, that's the wrong words. We have the ability to, if we choose to work through some of these experiences and emotions or not, leave things behind, take things on. This is the real interesting part of the game. And it's going to get crazier. The We've already spoken about the dumb elites pushing and pushing harder, creating more and more fanciful and crazy ideas and expectations upon us. This is because the same things happen to them as it is to us. We just need to observe this and understand this. One
I've
of
got,
my sorry, go
sorry,
on.
I'm interrupting you twice here, Gary. And Tony's saying, don't worry about past lives. Don't worry about healing them. Your soul knows what's best for you. And part of what you are doing is healing the earth and healing yourself at this time. So some of those energies will heal themselves by what you are doing and being presented with in your daily life. So you're where you're supposed to be, doing what you're supposed to be doing. Do it with love and gentleness.
Beautiful message. Thank you, Antimony. That's really nice to say that. And a good reminder to everybody. Real good reminder. My next question was going to be, how do we break free from the karma or non-helpful thought system? But we've covered that in that question, which is lovely. So, you know, we looked at the power that we actually give it, how we're co-creators, and how we can change this. And the fact is that also, the last part of the message was that we don't necessarily have to work at this at the current time because we're coming to the end. It's being dealt with on a different level, almost above our own pay grade, to ensure that we can move forward seamlessly.
Yes.
So,
Goodbye, karma.
yes, goodbye, goodbye,
Hello,
karma.
energy and energy creation and acceptance of energy return.
Yeah, yeah. And again, that was my next question: is created energy and return energy a thing? And if so, how does it work? But I think we've covered that as well because it's universal. So again, everything is part of a synergy of created and non-created, and it's going to work itself out. And we are working it out, and all of us are here at this time because we're meant to be here. Nothing is by accident. Timing is not by accident at this point in time, even though time is not. I think that's going to be one of our next subjects, isn't it? Time potentially and
Mm.
how it works or doesn't.
I, I think that following on from what I said earlier, this is Anthony, what I said earlier about seeing it working out in the moment, humans can be very self-critical in terms of their observation. They observe the negative. Okay, you might want to wish to observe the positive, but you've got this duality thing going on, seeing that criticism is a form of self-improvement. Criticism does not and has never improved anyone. You might say, how can that be? I have berated myself and I have changed myself through my berating of me. But you have still berated yourself. You could have changed yourself without berating yourself. You have had the experience of berating yourself and getting better or changing yourself through berating yourself. That's just an experience, not the way to be, unless you decide that there is the way to be. We are talking about observation. We are not talking about fluffy love. We're saying that in this particular moment in time, don't worry about karma. The energy returns as they return to you, as we say in the moment, more and more instantaneous. You see when you harm someone with your word or whatever you say, you can put it right. You accept it. It becomes what it is. Observe and choose what you wish to do with it. There's no right or wrong. Being vulnerable. If you've embarrassed, welcome back that embarrassment. Let it be at home in you. And then it won't be embarrassed because it's embarrassed because it's a thought and a feeling that you are pushing away and you don't want. It feels uncomfortable. When you allow it in with gentleness and understanding, it is not the same thing. It's a part of you that you have allowed back in. So all of these things will be happening. You don't need to think about, oh God, what have I done in my past lives that's going to come and visit me? No. Here and now is where you are, who you are, what you're supposed to be doing. Be an observer in gentleness. Maybe that's sufficient to say. Act from a position of observing and gentleness.
I do keep saying observe, but don't absorb.
Great.
And I think that is very relevant to all sorts of things. Observe it, don't absorb it. See it for what it is. Know that this is the end of the game. Let it go. Be the bigger person. It doesn't hurt to say sorry. It doesn't hurt to say thank you. And it doesn't hurt to say how amazing somebody is. And by doing these simple gestures, we release so much from us. We let it drop away from us and we just carry on walking. So that's the way I kind of see this at the moment. Very simply, very simplistic, you know. The last question I've kind of got, and it's not really a question as such, but now is the time to drop the karma stigmatism. And I'm going to call it a shackle, a stigmatism. We don't need it anymore. Any last thoughts, please, from Antemidi or whoever regarding is karma, does it serve us any purpose at this time of the game, of the show that we're in now? Is karma, does it have any relevance anymore to as we move forward? Is this something we just need to start to disregard and move away from very quickly?
I've got all Arco coming in to say. If you look in front of you and you see purple energy, peaks and troughs, moving as they move, everything you know is a vibration. Everything from a vibration creates a harmony. Vibrations create the construct that you are within. It is a hologram. Thoughts and feelings are of themselves also vibrations. So the whole of the universe is vibrations and harmonies within flux. We are able to observe the energy of you as individuals and ourselves, and we can see them in flux. We can see where energy is discordant, not necessarily the events, Although the events are attached to discordant thoughts or feelings, we see worlds where thought patterns get stuck together. And we help with those. You may not see our help. But karma also implies repetition. There's no need to repeat an experience, no need to repeat an energy in that way. And Tamady said that yes, you are creators of energy, re-experiencing your energy, and that is true. But dismiss from your mind's punishment, dismiss from your mind's have to. It's all choice. It's vibration and energy. When you see karma as vibration and energy, it has no power over you. You are the creator. You have power over it, if indeed you have a power over it or need to have a power over it. And using Antamides' words of gentleness, I would only add to that by saying, be gentle. Just observe you are a creator. Relish your life. Love and experience the love within your life. See it everywhere. There are so many things that you could focus upon that are not loving and fulfilling. And yes, you will see those, but you can walk your life as a being of light within a harmonic construct, realizing that it is a construct and a jail and a process of thoughts, and that you are an individual walking within that construct, that you have love within you. You can experience the love around you. How much you experience the joy and the wonder of the world around you, whilst the shit show is going on, if you want to call it that, is up to you. But there is wonder. The way in which you talk to one another, the way you listen to these videos, the way that you respond to these videos in the comments. This is the wonder. You see the wonder in all of these connections with humanity and soul. This is something to relish. Relish your experience. Enjoy it. Fulfill your life and be full. If I have a wish for you, be full of joy.
Beautifully said. Olaka always has such profound wisdom and knowledge. Thank you very much. Nothing more I can add to that. So hopefully you've all enjoyed this show, the concepts. We walk away from things that do not serve us anymore, and karma is one of them. So with that, everybody, thank you very much for watching, and we will be back very soon. So from me, bye-bye.
Bye from me. Bit like the two Ronnies. Bye
Oh
from me.
yes,
Bye
from me
from
to you, to me to you.
me.
Love, light, and blessings, everyone. Bye bye.